Hi guys, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay, so if you're just coming across my video, you're welcome. My name is Stella. Okay, so today we're going to be cutting and sewing this cute dress for a 3 months old baby. Okay, so it's for the christening of the baby. Okay, so um this is the baby wearing the dress. It's so super beautiful and the process is easy. All right, so this is a pattern we'll be working with. I'll drop the link in the description box because we have a draft of this pattern. How I drafted it, super easy and straightforward. I'll leave the link in the description box. Okay, so um the full length, that's the dress length of the baby, is 15 inches. That's from her shoulder to where the dress is stopping is 15 inches. So this bodice is 6.5 inches. That's from the shoulder to her waist is 6.5. Now I went ahead to cut that out on the lace fabric and on the doll face bridal satin. Okay, now that's the lace fabric. So the only thing I did is to use my fabric glue, okay, to attach the lace to the doll face satin. Okay, so that's the only thing I did. Now that's my fabric glue. Okay, so I only glued the edges of the lace and placed it on top of the doll face satin. Okay, now I repeated the same on the back pieces as well. Okay, so the lace is on top of the doll face satin. You can see that it's separate. Okay, now I also cut out my doll face bridal satin as my lining. Now that's the lining for the front piece and for the back piece. Okay, now moving forward, the first thing I did is to mark my 1 inch zip allowance at the center back of the back piece alone. Okay, remember our pattern. In the pattern I added all my allowances. Okay, so I simply went ahead to mark out my 1 inch zip allowance at the center back of the main fabric and on the lining as well. Now I'll take this to my sewing machine and I'll stitch it down using my loose stitch. Okay, then afterwards I'll press it with my pressing iron, then take off the stitches. Now the whole essence of this is so that I can see my crease line when it's time to fix my zip. Okay, I like to work with exact measurements. Now I also went ahead to mark my 0.5 join allowance on the shoulder so that when it's time to join the shoulders, I'll see my marked lines. Now I repeated the same on the lining. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that. Then when I'm done, I will join them on the shoulders. Okay, and that will be it. I'll repeat the same on the lining pieces as well. I'll stitch my center back with my on the 1 inch zip allowance, press it open and take off the stitches. Okay, so I can see the crease line. Okay, and that will be it for the up part of the dress. Okay, so I'll simply take that to my sewing machine and I'll join the shoulders of the main fabric and the lining. Okay, then I'll press them open and I'll come back and show us. Okay, so after I'm done joining the main fabric, I'll pick up the lining pieces as well. I will place the back pieces on the front piece of the lining this time around, and I'll also join it by the shoulders using my 0.5 allowance. Okay, now and that will be it. I'll press. Now if you look at the dress, you will see that it has a tiny waistband. Okay, so I went ahead to cut out my waistband measuring 1.75. Okay, now so that when we are done, I'll use 0.5 to attach it to the lower part, so we'll be left with 1.25. That's how wide I want that band to be. Remember, this dress is for a 3 months old baby. Okay, so this is how we'll attach the band. Now the folded part will be facing up, so the open side will be facing down. Now you can see that the fabric is on fold, so we'll place it like so, and I'll stitch that down using 0.5. Okay, and after that I'll cut off the excess by the sides. Now I also cut out my belt. You can see the back of the dress, it has a belt. Now the length of the belt is measuring 22.5 inches. Okay, now it's on fold and I cut out two pieces, so I'll simply take that to my sewing machine and I'll stitch on the side. Okay, using my 0.5. The width of the belt is 2 inches. okay, so that by the time we use half inch to turn, we'll be left with 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'll take this to the sewing machine and I'll stitch. You can see I've marked my 0.5 mark. Now I'll stitch on those lines. I'll repeat the same on the other piece of the belt. I'll turn and I'll press it very well. Then I'll attach that like so to the front piece. Okay, then I'll do this and I'll come back and show us. Okay, so to the lower part, from her waist to the dress length is 8.5. Okay, so I cut out this lace. Okay, and because I want to make use of the edge of the lace, so I only added 0.5. So in total, the lace width is 9 inches. Remember, 8.5 is the actual length, and I added 0.5, which will be using to join it to the half length. Okay, now to the actual width. Okay, so the width is 9 inches. Now the length of the lace is 1 yard and 34 inches. It's not up to 2 yards, but you can make yours 2 yards. But the exact width that we're working with here is 1 yard and 34 inches. Okay, so when it's time, I'll simply gather it, or you can pleat. I'll gather it to the half length. Okay, and we will join. Now I also went ahead to cut out some tulle net, just so that we can give it a little bit of fluffiness. Okay, um the width of the tulle net is 9 inches as well, but eventually we'll trim out 1 inch. I want the tulle net to be a bit shorter than the lace. Okay, remember that this is for a baby, so we are looking at for so we're after the comfort of the baby. Okay, so I cut out 4 pieces of this tulle net. Now each of them is measuring 4 yards. Okay, so each one lengthwise is 4 yards. So I have 4 pieces of it, of the tulle net, and the width is 9 inches. Okay, so when it's time, we'll gather it lengthwise, but we'll gather it in twos. So I'll pick up 2 pieces and I will align it lengthwise, and then we'll gather it. Okay, when it's time, I will show us how to do the gathering. Okay, so I'm going to gather them in twos. I'll gather the first two and I'll gather the second two. Okay, and we'll be joining them. The first two will join it to the main fabric, and the other one will join to the lining. Okay, now that will be it for now. Okay, then I'll also go ahead and cut out my lining, my 180 degrees flare. Okay, I have a video on how I cut out my lining on my channel. I'll leave the link in the description box. But it's simple. Is to take her waist round of 18 and divide it by 3.142. Okay, and that's it. So I'll cut my lining out and I'll show us what next. Okay, so this is it. I have joined the main fabric, okay, by the shoulder using our 0.5. Then I pressed it open. Now I also did the same on the lining piece. You can see I've joined the shoulders, so the front piece and the back piece are joined now and pressed. Okay, now I also went ahead to mark my 0.5 turning allowance around the neckline. Okay, and I didn't mark it on the sleeve. Remember that we're adding a sleeve to this dress. Okay, so I only marked it, my 0.5, round the neckline. Now it's time for us to turn the neckline. So just go ahead and place your main fabric, okay, and the lining right sides facing each other, and we're going to stitch. But in stitching, we'll leave 0.5 away from the zip line. Okay, now we'll come back to this after we're done fixing our zip. Okay, so we can close that up. Now I've turned my belt, okay, and I've pressed it, as you can see, and it's laying really flat. Now I have also stitched down our waistband, okay, to the front piece, and I press that as well. Okay, as you can see. Now I'll go ahead and trim off the excesses. Okay, now remember that the dress has a sleeve. Okay, so to get the cap height for the baby, what I did is I divided her chest round, which is 17 over 12 plus 1. Now it gave me 2.4 inches. Okay, now, and I marked that down. So her armhole line, to get that, I simply did her chest round divided by 6 plus 1.5. And remember, her chest round is 17. So 17 over 6 plus 1.5, that gave me 4.3. So I marked that and I added 1 inch sewing allowance. Okay. So the length of the sleeve is 7 inches. Now, for the round sleeve, I simply doubled her round sleeve. Now her round sleeve is 4 inches. I doubled that. I made that 8, and I added my 1 inch sewing allowance. Now when I'm done, I will use elastic thread to form a little bit of gathers round, just by the round sleeve. Okay, remember that this dress is for a baby. Okay, so that's it for the sleeve. Now I'll go ahead and stitch down my sleeve, okay, to the armhole of the dress. Okay, and I'll press. But before we go ahead and do that, we need to first of all turn the neckline. So you place your main fabric and the lining the right sides facing each other. Okay, and then I'll go and stitch round the neckline. Okay, then after I'm done stitching round the neckline, I'll go ahead and mark my 1.5 inches sewing allowance. Remember, on our pattern we added 1.5 inches sewing allowance. So I've marked that down. I'll go ahead and mark it on the other sides, on the main fabric and on the lining as well. So when I'm done, I'll join right sides, the main fabric, okay, fabric to fabric and lining to lining. Okay, just like I always do in my videos. So I'll join that and I'll press. Okay, and I'll also attach the sleeve, and then I'll come back and show us. All right, so this is it. I'm done. I have attached the sleeve. So I'll simply go ahead and use my elastic thread and stitch round, okay, just 1 inch before the hem. I'll do that on the other sleeve as well. I've also attached my belt, okay. You can see how neat it is. The only rough edge we have there is just round the armhole, which I will still overlock. Okay, this is looking really beautiful. Now, when attaching your belt, just go up by 0.5 so that it doesn't enter your seam line when you're joining the lower part, okay? So I needed to point that out for us. All right, so the next thing we'll do is to work on the lower part, okay? Now, this is our lace fabric. Okay. Then remember that I told us that it's measuring 1 yard and 34 inches. So that's the length of the lace fabric. Okay. So I also went ahead to join my tool. Remember I told us that we're going to be gathering it in twos. So for ease of handling, I stitched down each of them. Okay. So I picked up two and then I stitched it down so that I can handle it as a single piece. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and gather that the first two. Okay. I'll gather it to the lace fabric. Okay. Now when I'm done, I'll stitch it to the half length. Okay. Now I'll also repeat the same on the lining. Remember I told us that we're working with a 180 degrees flare, okay, as our lining. Now I'll also stitch down the other two. Okay, I'll gather it and I'll stitch it round the waist of the lining as well, and then I'll show us what that looks like. Now remember that you have an option to either gather your tulle net, okay, to the main fabric, or you can pleat, whichever works for you. But I gather, okay, and I feel that it gives it more volume. Okay, now I'll do this and I'll show us what it looks like. Okay, so I'm done. I've gathered the tulle net to the lace, okay, and I've attached it to the main fabric. Okay, you can see the outside. Okay, and now this is the rough the inside. I said let me show us before I go ahead to attach the lining. Now as you can see, it's just the two layers of the tulle net. Okay, that's what we have here, and I attached it to the main fabric. Okay, now you can see the lining of the half length is still there. Now I'll go ahead and gather the remaining two nets to the lining piece, okay, and I'll attach the lining to the lining of the half length, like so, just like I did for the main fabric, okay. I'll stitch that down around the waistline, and the next thing we'll be doing is to fix our zip, okay. Now, to fix our zip, I'll simply hold down the waistline, okay. You can pin that down, and then I came down by 3 inches from the waistline downwards, okay, and then I fixed my zip, and that's it. Okay, so this is the finished look. This dress is super cute. I mean, it's for a 3 months old and is lovely. I went ahead to attach the flowers just on the waistline, something to pop it a bit. Okay, now I also trimmed down the tulle net inside so that it doesn't poke the baby at all. I also used my hot gun to attach some stones, okay, just around the chest, not around the neckline. No, you know that this is for a baby, so I don't want her to be uncomfortable at all. Now, this is the inside of the dress. You can see that the tulle net is separate, okay. You can see that the tulle net on the lining is separate, and the tulle net on the main fabric is there as well, okay. Now all the rough edges are all concealed except the one by the armhole, which I will overlock. You can see how the inside is looking neat and clean and fluffy. Guys, you need to try this dress out. This is a lovely dress for a baby, okay. And with the belt, it just looks nice, okay. I don't know, I'm just short for words. So, and that's it, we're done with the dress. I went ahead to use my elastic thread, okay, and then I just gathered it round the round sleeve of the dress, okay. It's just a lovely dress. All right, guys, and that's it. It's a wrap. Kindly subscribe to my channel if you have not, and thank you for watching my video. I appreciate you. All right, so I'll see you in my subsequent videos. Bye.